Now Levi, who was an outcast, is suddenly put into a totally new status. He's got a friend called Jesus. He's accepted by a man of God. He now has a spiritual community about him, which he didn't have before. What does he do with it? What would you do? He celebrates. Yeah, let's have a party. Let's have a food and drink. Let's invite the friends round, those who liked me. And I want to introduce them to Jesus. I mean, Jesus accepted me. Why wouldn't he accept you? Come and meet him. Come and eat and drink with him. See what I have found. It's good to be reminded by new Christians of the joy of finding Jesus. The wonder of it all, the wow factor. We lose that as time and familiarity sort of eroded away from us. We spend a little bit too much time thinking about how we live, how we relate within the fellowship, rather than with our relationship with Jesus, our one-to-one with him. Doing the right thing sometimes creeps in, or at least being seen to do the right thing creeps into our life. After all, there are rules to be in church, aren't there? Now, the Pharisees knew a thing or two about church rules, and they're in the background here, asking questions, challenging, what on earth is going on? Here is Jesus relating and dining with a bunch of sinners. This is wrong. This is not the done thing. Being whiter than white was what they were interested in. They were the guardians of God's people, or at least in terms of their spirituality they were. And they didn't like this at all. Their ideas of being pure were all mixed up with behaviour, activities, what you could and couldn't do, rules and regulations. That's what Pharisees were there for, to tell you what you could and couldn't do. No rule was overlooked, no sin was too small. Yet pride is a sin as well, and although they disguise themselves in respectability and religious behaviour, somewhere along the line they got it wrong. They saw sin as a sort of disease, something you could catch if you associated with the wrong type. And looking down on people had sort of become the religious norm, the right thing to do. That was a way of marking yourself as being a mature believer. And here was Jesus mixing with a bunch of outcasts. Not very good. He even healed the sick. He touched the dying and the dead. What is this all about? You're supposed to avoid these type of things. You could catch something. Which is probably why they spent a lot of time chasing lepers out of colonies, out of towns. They avoided anyone who was sick and dying because it would contaminate them. That's illustrated in the story of the Great Samaritan, which Jesus uses. The Good Samaritan, the one who did what the teachers and the religious leaders didn't do and helped when needed. It's not how it should be done. And Jesus needed to be told that. So they did. And what was Jesus' reaction? His reaction was basically this. Spiritual outcasts need spiritual leadership, like the sick need a doctor. Now, this is a picture that Luke, the writer, would have connected with, because he was a doctor. And the whole idea that you're there to help the spiritually unhealthy, yes, that works for him. Jesus was basically saying, look, if you want to be an example to those who have gone the wrong way, you need to be prepared to get your hands dirty. Get stuck in. These are people who recognize they have a need. That's who you should be spending time with. not those who don't recognize it. Jesus, in this way, announces his mission. He says, look, I've come for the lost. I'm here to speak words of healing and reconciliation, not judgment. Jesus, the Word of God, can come to bring spiritual health to the spiritually unhealthy. There are laws, of course, there are rules and regulations that are good. But there are deeper laws of God, and they have to do with love and sharing that love. Now, our own experience of that love, our own experience of that cure, when we were spiritually unhealthy, gives us confidence, as it did with Levi, that it will work with other people. And he's keen to share that with his friends. If we receive a cure, it should motivate us to want to share it. But it also gives us a responsibility to make sure it's delivered to those who have need of it. Even if it's to those crying out and going down some pretty unsavoury pathways. They're the ones in need of a cure.